That'd be a facility if it does go through where it would be kind of managed, operated, ran by La Plata County workforce, or would it be third-party contracted?
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Matt, how you doing, man? Good to have you back on the show.
It's great to see you, and thank you for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a while. I think you were, I'd have to double check. I think you were like episode 6, early on.
It was way early.
Yeah, we were doing it remote. I think we lost connection a couple times and then popped back in. But I'm actually happy to have you in person because I think the conversation always goes much smoother. We don't do the classic like glitch, like, I'm sorry, what'd you say? And you're like, yeah, it's like, it kills me. So.
Yeah, and I wish I would have been able to be in the studio. It's pretty cool. So
we actually we got this probably episode 13, 14.
Okay.
It might have actually even been later than that. So we just had after yours, we had a couple episodes where it was just agonizing. We had to re-record with a guest because of dropouts, and it was like, dude, I can't fake a conversation again.
No.
No, I'm actually happy to have you come on, and I know a lot has kind of changed since our last, conversation we had, and I was still kind of new at it, and I'm still very new at it, but this type of setting is just so much more comfortable, I think, for both myself and the guests. So I was happy to get you back on and kind of talk about, that's been almost a year since we, talked in a podcast format. So,
a lot has happened in La Plata County.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so we kind of were just talking about it off air, and I'm intrigued with it because, it was something that was, I think it kind of hit home with both of us, and we talked about it quite a bit in the previous episode. But, let's just jump into what have, some of the advances with Denier been.
Yeah,
or the old Denier facility, I should say.
Right. So state-owned the Denier facility. They did not want to manage and run that facility anymore. It was a teenage youth detention facility. So those services are now up in Grand Junction and Grand Mesa. But with the Denier facility being open, La Plata County Commissioners said, hey, look, we have a facility that we now own. We would like to put that on the table for inpatient, outpatient, some sort of type of facility for drug use for those that are wanting to recover and get better. It has hit home for both of us and many families in La Plata County. And we lost a friend, an acquaintance a couple years, 2 years ago now. And time has been flying. But it was just really tough for our Bayfield community, and I think about him often. It really gives me the fuel for the fire that I have on making sure that there's options here in La Plata County and in our region. So with the Denier facility, we had a feasibility study go out with our task force called SWORD, Southwest Opioid so it's Southwest Opioid Regional District. So many acronyms I have to remember. It's like, oh gosh. But with that group, the Attorney General Phil Weiser was suing drug manufacturers on opioids that has impacted in many deaths, many families affected, and getting compensation from those drug manufacturers. And so some of that money is quite a bit of money coming to the state, but it's being divvied out throughout the whole state. So then that gets, a lower amount of money for La Plata County. But our region, 5 counties, decided to work together to pool those funds together to be able to create this group to be able to help families and those that are wanting recovery and some sort of facility to be able to combat those issues that we're facing. But with that Denier facility and with this impact feasibility study, which will be coming out by the end of this month in July 31st, would be letting us know what we can and cannot do, what can we afford. And preliminary results right now, unfortunately, shows that it's going to be really hard to find a group, staff members to be able to outfit that property, to be able to help with those families and individuals that need help. So, but there are some positive of this report that will come out here at the end of this month, and that is, there could be inpatient, outpatient living facility. So, these individuals and families can go out to other areas, but when they come back, what we're really finding throughout the whole country is that you go and you get the help. you beat, the addiction. But when you come back home, you still have those individuals that were helping you get those drugs or alcohol. And so with this would be a transition point to where they can live there and be able to get the help, medical treatment as well. There's SUDS treatment, substance use, where they can get medicine that will help for their addictions. And so results aren't physically out just yet, end of this month. But still, the good news is it's an option for La Plata County and our region. So I look forward to here by the end of this month to hear learning a little bit more on those opportunities.
Gotcha. And would that be a facility if it does go through where it would be kind of managed, operated, ran by La Plata County workforce, or would it be third-party contracted?
It would be contracted.
Okay.
It could be like, Centura. They're not them individually contracting it, but a third party to be able to help. And we're still wanting to look for, Access Health, Centura, directing and gaining attention from those third parties to be able to hopefully outfit that. And what it would be is someone manning that building and facility, if it is a living inpatient facility, to stay there for transitional housing during their treatments, that it would be somebody else to be able to manage that.
So that type of treatment, I would presume that most of it would be voluntary or maybe even mandated, whatever the case scenario is. But is that type of treatment historically subsidized by insurance companies? So like if a person goes in there, or is it, if they go of their own volition, do they have to pay their own way? Because I know that there's a lot of talk and conversation surrounding whether it be Centura Health or whether it be Access Health or whomever. There's just this huge, almost insurmountable wall at times to get around with regard to the insurance companies or the lack thereof insurance or things like that. And so I think I talked to a gentleman the other day that was on the podcast, and I took my daughter to get an X-ray, and we opt to do direct primary care. It's just what we do. And it doesn't have everything, but it has the things that we need on, for the most part. But, we went down to Farmington to get an X-ray, and it was, let's call it $85 out of pocket. But she reached, first asked, hey, what's up with the insurance card? Do you have an insurance? And I was like, oh, we're just going to be cash pay. And so at the end of the day, if I would have used insurance, it would have been $1,200. But to pay it for cash, it was $85, And so I know that that's kind of a big hurdle with some of these facilities that are some voluntary and, some maybe mandated by, municipal government or something, or sheriff's department or whatever. So is that a hurdle that you're seeing kind of in some of these studies, is like, how would this be managed? It's not a hospital. It's not immediate care. It's not emergency care. So there's really not that insurance component. If, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but am I kind of
all options are on the table.
Gotcha.
There is some state funding that can come through, federal funding as well. As on the topic of insurance, I completely understand that problem. And where I have individuals I hear about that have Medicaid, and they can get the help and have much easier time to be able to get scheduled and be treated and have that be paid for and assisted on that. But then I hear from private insurance provider people that have private insurance, and they can't see anyone in the area. I know that's not just happening here in La Plata County, but
Sure.
it's all over. If this inpatient, outpatient living, whatever we get this to where it is defined in the future here, I want to make sure that cash pay, private insurance, Medicaid is all available and on the table to be used, because everyone is different in what the coverage that they have. But that definitely will be something that we'll be discussing here in the future.
Nice. So end of the month, that kind of preliminary in-depth study should be out to the public, or
that will be to the public.
Okay,
yes.
Good.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to kind of seeing what that entails, and maybe some of the hurdles. It's often interesting. I sit on a much smaller capacity from a public service type thing with our town board here in Bayfield. But it is interesting when you get to see a little bit behind the curtains, and most of the stuff is available to the public. But when you're like, oh my God, like there's a ton of work that goes into it. And then also it's like, it's almost like mountains that you have to climb to get these little bit increments of growth or movement. And it's a bit disheartening at times. So I think that it's a good thing like this, where I think the general public knows we have a problem, or they know somebody in their own family, like, we have a problem. Damn it, we need something like this. But when you get to see those things that the public service members have to go through to kind of actually bump that needle, not move it, just bump it. It's like, oh my God, what are we,
It's
like
so frustrating. And I'm glad that with you being on a town board, it's one where it's like, now because, there's a lot of times we hear from individuals, like, just get it done.
Yeah.
Well, we have to have public meetings. We have to have, public minutes. We have to post it for a certain amount of time. We need to, it just takes time. And unfortunately, I wish I could make things happen tomorrow, especially with, the addictions that we have in La Plata County in our region.
Absolutely. So, yeah, end of the month, man, I'll be excited to see what that report brings. And, if you're listening to this, reach out, if you have any questions about it, if you can't find it, and, we'll try and do what we can to steer people towards it, just so that way that, you do have the information, you are aware of kind of what's happening and what can and can't happen. Maybe because of finances, and maybe because of funding, and maybe because of, the lack of the willingness of the greater community. Who knows? So I think it's, everybody owes it to themselves to kind of look at this research and look at these studies and just say, not the ones that are just being directly affected, everybody, because, you may not have a problem in your family right now, but I mean, there's no telling what tomorrow brings, right?
Yeah, and I sit on an anti-stigma campaign group here in La Plata County, where they help distribute and educate individuals about Narcan and naloxone and the drug use, the drugs that we have here running through La Plata County. And I have some individuals that are really happy and excited for that option. Then I have others that are saying, why the heck are you providing a tool in order for them to keep doing drugs? And I always have to say, what if it was your family member? Until there are services here in La Plata County or in our region and our neighboring counties, I will always be a part of making sure that there is a tool to keep your loved one still staying alive. And until we get some services to be able to help and assist, I'm going to help be a part of that team and being able to distribute education as well as a tool to be able to keep them alive.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's... First, you got to be a person, I think, I can't say Joey's last name, but either way, he came on and talked, he was our first live episode in front of somebody, and he talked in grave detail about, the fentanyl epidemic, if you want to call it, that's coming through our towns, our county, the counties wide. And, it just blew me away that his perspective on it was absolutely, these are people, regardless of whether you think they're just garbage human beings. That's irrelevant. This is a human being, and it kind of stuck with me, because we've both been through that, and sometimes you're like, you almost question like, I saw that coming, and that sucks to say that. So I'm really happy to hear that you've got a pretty strong line in the sand of almost saying the same. Like these are human beings. And just because it's happening to your neighbor today doesn't mean that it couldn't happen to you tomorrow. So, and I can't say there's anybody out there that wouldn't want that help. If it's last minute and you got to do it, it's easy to point the finger right now. But when it turns backwards to you, it's like, I need something. I need some help. I need people. So I'm glad to hear that that's your stance on that.
Of course, definitely.
This is That's Your Stance Mondays, I think. So, and we kind of jumped into it, Matt, but just for those that don't know you, they might not have even heard this show at episode 6. So why don't you at least tell what you do? Maybe we'll go there. So kind of just breeze past that.
What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
No, so my name is Matt Salka. I'm La Plata County Commissioner, and I've been County Commissioner for, now 2 years and 6 months. So it's been a job I love. I love serving the people. I dipped my toe into the political world as an elected when I started here at the town of Bayfield, and ever since then I've been loving my job, and it's truly rewarding for myself to be able to try to solve problems here.
That's awesome. All right. Well, now that you guys know him, we're going to get back to the scheduled episode. So, yeah, man. So what else is going on in the county,
I can give you some fun, great, news that we were having here in La Plata County. As you had heard about a bunch of funding for broadband here, federal government came out with $1 billion for broadband expansion, and unfortunately, for Region 9, which is 5 counties, we submitted for a $66 million request, and we did not receive those fundings. But the state of Colorado only received about $2 million out of that pool.
Out of the billion?
Yeah, out of that. Yeah. So it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But there's out of that one pool. So there's many pools of funding for broadband expansion. And so the great news is there is a total of $171 million from the state of Colorado for capital projects that we'll be working on submitting for projects. Then there's another bill or another pool of funding that's $826 million for the state of Colorado that we'll be able to pull from too as well. And that's for BEAD funding. That's last mile to homes and businesses.
Okay.
So between those two pools, we're going to definitely be working with Region 9. It's an organization that helps, I call them like the cat herder of the governments to be able to get projects that will benefit us as a region as a whole. And so we have highlighted 3 priorities here in La Plata County, working with our neighboring counties. But what we've highlighted is north of Bayfield, which is County Road 501, to Forest Lakes, to Vallecito Lake, those properties up there. Then working on your way to County Road 240, which is your Lemon Reservoir, working up there, which is very underserved or unserved locations around Lemon. And then the other area we're also looking at is County Road 250, which parallels Highway 550, which is going north of Durango. So those nice homes that are along there, well, they're severely underserved. So, but what's great about that is it also works on connecting with middle mile options. What we're having lately is, I don't know if you were part of that outage, but Bayfield lost CenturyLink had went down for quite a while. Well, I understand and I value those that want to watch and use internet and stream on their platforms that they can use. But what the bigger picture was, Archuleta County, our neighboring county in Pagosa Springs, was completely out. That is no telephone service, that is no cell service, and that is businesses unable to conduct their businesses, and you can't call 911. If there's an emergency, you're not able to get help. And so redundancy is a major point that I'm trying to address. Bayfield, a lot of Bayfield was out. North of Bayfield, Forest Lakes didn't have phone services and cell phone services, and we've gotten very lucky just these past 3 outages that we've had. And so with this funding, it's kind of solving a lot of problems. So it would be the redundancy issue, making sure that the lights are always on with the fiber, and being able to have first responders to answer those phone calls, to be able to reach wherever they need help. Then the third location too as well is Wildcat Canyon.
Okay.
So from Durango, Wildcat Canyon to County Road 140. I'm trying to remember all these county roads, but Wildcat Canyon, that county road, and then Highway 140. Okay. So working your way down to New Mexico, that's serving a lot of underserved and unserved properties,
so kind
as
of
well as
Green, Red Mesa area.
Oh yeah, and really want to. Their connections are pretty bad out there, and so we want to make sure that we can address those slow speeds, but also that connects to New Mexico. That hits you another redundant loop to be able to connect to make sure that our phone services, internet is always running.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean it's huge, man, especially like this day and age, which is, if anybody's listening to this and you're in the city, like it's probably almost impossible for you to understand like what we have to deal with. But I mean, our county, La Plata County, whatever the mileage is, I'll put it to you like this: it's halfway between Bayfield and Pagosa Springs, Colorado, and to Mancos. I mean, it's a gigantic county, and so within that county, you have a couple smaller little towns and in the city of Durango, but beyond that, it's primarily, I'd say 70% rural. And so you've got people out there with maybe they've got cell service, but they might still be on CenturyLink, and on a good day, if the line's not compromised or something, or there's not 1,000 people on it, you might have 7 megs down. And so it's hard for a lot of people to understand that, because I'll talk to even friends here in Bayfield that opt to pay for the most ridiculously expensive fiber, and they're like, I got 300 gigabytes down or whatever it is, and I'm like, I got CenturyLink. My kid can stream. If he's streaming, I can't make a phone call. No. So-
I represent Bayfield,
Yeah.
Ignacio, and Durango, but I also represent the rural parts of the county, and that's where we're hearing where they're needing that.
Yeah.
But still, again, the redundancy topic, Durango, Bayfield, Ignacio could go down.
Mhm.
So we need the redundant connection to be able to help, and which benefits the cities and the towns. It also will benefit the rural communities.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, that interconnectivity is huge. I remember, it sounds silly, but, we had this massive project with BP in Texas where we were building it was a wireless redundant loop, but it's basically a failover network, where if anything goes down, there's a multiple stations, multiple repeaters that then pick that up if there's intermittent service for X amount of seconds or something like that. And that's for a gas pad. That's, like out there in the middle of nowhere. Chances are nothing is going to happen if we don't see it for 30 minutes, right? But if you lose the ability to make a phone call, an emergency phone call, that could be life-threatening. And so it's really good to hear that the county's pushing, towards that and like really trying to work at the state level to get some of those funds and get these places, interconnected, so to speak, right?
We can't, the Plata County itself cannot afford the expansion. Love our mom and pop ISPs, internet service providers. They're great. I have a great relationship with them all. We have biweekly and monthly meetings with our stakeholders in our region, and then we also include the internet service providers too as well to coordinate on this funding. We are very well aware of all this money coming in. How can we work together instead of against each other? In the past, I've talked about how ISPs would fight over funding. Now we're looking at governments working together as well as internet service providers to say, what can we do what's best for our community, our county, our towns, our region to be able to get that funding here? I always, we're like the stepchild of the state. And so how can we work together in order to be the loudest? And we have. I've been a part of the Western Slope, all those counties, which we sent a letter to the governor to express our concerns. I briefly talked to you about the Wolf Creek fiber coming down into Pagosa Springs on our last podcast. And, we're still talking about that. And so we're Plata County Commissioners, which is including myself. We just approved on moving a CDOT right-of-way access bill that we're going through our lobbyists, which is Colorado Counties Incorporated. So far, it's gaining some attention and attraction to be able to remove annual fees for the installation of fiber in CDOT's right-of-way.
So, just real quick, so I can better understand this. So the companies that would be laying the conduit or the fiber or whichever, they wouldn't have to pay an annual or monthly fee to CDOT to be in this right away, right? They're basically, because the state is pushing this at such a hard frequency, they're kind of giving them a break, financially speaking, to get their services in that right of way.
Well, have a great relationship with some of the CDOT representatives, but they have their orders to follow. And what they are reviewing currently right now is a annual fee for right-of-way access for broadband. To give you an example, if a gas line goes through or power, they don't pay an annual fee.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're trying to do is all this funding, the $826 million, the $171 million, a lot of that would go towards these fees. If we're trying to execute, Governor Polis here 2 years ago, 2 years ago, had put an executive order out saying we're going to reach 99% of homes in the state of Colorado by 2027. These fees would impede and slow down the development of broadband. And this fee, depending on what type of state road it is around 77 cents a foot a year.
Annually? Yeah.
Annually. That we calculated for our region about $300,000 a year that would have to pay to be continued access in the right of way. Gotcha. So what this bill will do is to remove that annual fee. I'm not trying to take money away from CDOT whatsoever. There's still permitting fees. There's fees that to be able to have access to that right of way. But let's use every single dollar to be able to execute the executive order that the governor gave, as well as help, most importantly, benefit La Plata County and our region for high-speed internet.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. So so fiber is the only entity, or I would say broadband communication is the only entity that is essentially taxed on the use of that right of way?
It's not a utility.
It's not a utility.
Yep. That's
Really?
another fight. That's a federal fight.
Yeah.
I'm focused on our
So
communities.
communication access to the internet is not considered a utility by the
It's
state
not.
level or by the federal level?
Nope, not at all.
That's interesting. I was
So
unaware of that.
let's, and so let's do what's best, and that's for the people to have access. And unfortunately, we don't have that.
That's interesting. The airways are considered a transportation method,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
that is a utility, right? Your cell phone
Well,
is.
if it's broadband, don't quote me on this. I mean, you
Trying to-
put it up there, but I'll be honest
Yeah.
here. I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
think so. But there's point-to-point networks. There's ISPs out there that have a nice little box on the side of your home, and it's pointing at an antenna, and it's able to have a wireless connection.
Yeah.
That will benefit them too as well, and they're
Sure.
actually really excited because it helps to put backhaul there to have more capacity to be able to expand their coverage.
Yeah.
But also too, it's that redundant loop, and then they're also these wireless providers are looking at putting fiber in the ground too themselves.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's an economic driver.
Well, it's crazy. It seems ridiculous, right? But we just came back from Denver on Friday. Went up for Thursday, came right back, and I'm working on a contract, and I know I'm going to lose it right at South Fork, so I save it. My wife's driving, get up and over Wolf Creek, and she's like, "Do you have it yet?" I was like, "We won't get it until we pass the new tower right at Boot Jack Ranch." And so she's like, "Where is it?" I was like, I just know that they put it in like 2 or 3 years ago, and it works right here." And that seems ridiculous, but I mean, it used to be like, at least with AT&T service, like once you came off Wolf Creek, you didn't get service again with AT&T until you got up by basically the Walmart, which is the golf course area in Pagosa. That's like 35 miles of so to come down off of Wolf Creek and like see this, pseudo looking antenna tree now, and like, oh, I got cell service again. That's amazing. It's like,
Yeah, that's a huge gap where emergency. How can you call out if there's a wreck?
Sure.
It's you hear those stories. I've read in the Herald, during the winter of people going off the cliff.
Yeah.
You can't call out.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, I'll be interested to see what happens with that bill, and
Yeah, it's been fun. When I was the mayor of Bayfield, I love my community still. I love the small town of Bayfield and the vibe and the people, and it's great to always go around, run into everyone. Living in this small town, but after mayor and then becoming county commissioner, I jumped in the deep end of the pool. I'm like, wow, state legislation now. And my first year we didn't propose any bills coming from La Plata County. And then my second year, and now here coming up on my third year for 2024 legislation, it has been fun. There are some crazy bills out there that are getting introduced, and what's great is residents of La Plata County reach out to me and they say they're for or against, or can we change items on these bills? And I really love those individuals that are really dedicated on making sure what's best for themselves, for their family members, for the county. And so legislation has been a lot of fun. So I look forward to 2024 session, and hopefully this broadband bill will help, which will benefit businesses and homes to be able to have high-speed internet.
sure. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. We'll see where it goes. What else you got on the docket? You got anything secret over there that you can't talk about, but on my podcast?
Well, we would have to, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. So, so a couple items too as well is just talking about, residents reach out to me about county roads. And so, county roads is a very hot topic where depending on where you live throughout the county and how many people are on that county road, these county roads are getting beat up. I want to just say that our county road department and our staff, the crew that are out there, they're amazing. They're really working off a 1986 funding. That mill levy was set in 1986 and has not changed since then. And so there's a low number of funding that they use to be able to keep our county roads safe and bladed and graded and keep the public safe on this. So there was a couple items on how do we engage the public to let them know when a project's going to happen on their county road. And so the commissioners we had put up to talk to our road and bridge crew, and now we have a scheduled calendar. It gets updated twice a month to let you know, hey, if you're on County Road X, this is when you'll see road machines and the crew out there to blade and grade those roads for you. So that what was great is it eliminated half of the call volume to the road and bridge department. And so that was a great opportunity. So you can always visit our county website to take a look at and when that work is going to be done on your county road. So it'll list out all 4 districts of the road departments, and it will let you know when roads are what's happening on your road.
How many miles of road do you guys have to maintain?
Oh my gosh, I should have wrote that down. I want to say it's like 700 miles around there. Yeah, it's a lot.
I was way up. I was like 250.
Yeah, it's quite a bit.
Dang.
It's a lot of roads. And you have to think too as well is that, we've found our finance department found creative ways, and we're able to take sales tax money before it hits the general fund to be able to help. And so the past 2 years, we were able to move $5 million to put into the road and bridge department to be able to keep our roads maintained. You have to think 1986 funding, what was the vision of what was the size of La Plata County compared to what it is now?
Sure.
And so how are we, so transparency, work out there, communication, let the public know when it's happening on their county road. And, in the future, there may be discussions on how can we, improve the funding for that. Of course, we look for grants. Of course, we look for state funding. Infrastructure dollars are coming in throughout the country, and we are finding creative ways to get additional dollars coming in. But it's definitely where, again, our road and bridge crew, they're great.
Yeah.
They do a lot of good work.
Yeah, that, you talk about the mill levy being basically what it is, and we have one of the lowest mills in the state. For those of you guys listening, the mill levy is basically what defines the taxes against the house assessment, right? The tax assessor's assessment of the valuation of the home. So, I have people constantly coming from other states. Texas is one that's huge, right? They're like, "Oh my God, your taxes are nothing," but sometimes, and oftentimes, that's from somebody coming up here to buy a second home that's far more affluent than, the average person in La Plata County. And so when you start to go down that conversation of like, well, how do we build funding? Yeah, we can go for grants, but at the end of the day, most of the time it lands on the mill levy needs to be increased. And every time I've brought that conversation up to anybody that's really involved, it's like, well, how do we we can barely afford to live here. And now you want to increase the taxes more. And yes, that's taxes. And yes, there are certain taxable benefits if you're out there, if you're a 1099 contractor and things of that nature. But it feels like people are just getting hit yet again with another burden because it is so costly to live here, per capita, that it's like, how else do we do this? But you start to run the numbers and look at like, where are we going to pull from? And it's like, God, every other municipality, like not every other, I shouldn't say that, but a lot of others have significantly higher taxes on the residential housing sector that pay for a bulk of what they do. And so that's been a very volatile conversation most of the time when you have that. It's like, we're going to increase the mill levy. Like, oh my God, what do you mean? It's like, what else do you want to do? I don't know. I remember years ago when oil and gas kind of took this would have been probably 2012, 13. They stopped drilling. And what does that do? That has a negative impact on our taxable revenue, right? That we're getting from the county. They're no longer drilling. They're only producing. And we only get X amount of dollars from that because the BLM gets the other. And then the county really wanted to go after marijuana, and it was like people came out in the droves. Like basically we're trading taxes for employment. And that was the hard line in the sand with most people that were living and breathing in that industry were like, okay, you can tax us because now you've lost your bread and butter. You want to tax the marijuana industry more than it's already being taxed at the state level, which is crazy. For those of you that don't know, like crazy taxation on that industry, that sector of business. But to say, okay, we're going to tax you guys because we just lost this thing that we didn't plan on, right? We didn't plan on the oil and gas market to be as cyclical as it is. It falls out every 3 to 5 years. And man, it was like people were up in arms. I remember sitting in that meeting. I remember getting up and giving a speech and nearly blacking out because I was out of breath. And I was like, man, this is hard. So that conversation of like, how do we get funds, again, going back to the thing, sitting on the board now, like it's easy to sit as a citizen and go, why don't you do that? Why don't, why aren't our parks the best in the state? Well, it's pretty simple. We don't have enough people to maintain what we have as parks. And also a park is a loss leader. A park makes no money. You could rent that park out every day of the year and you still would be negative. And that's just a hard, cold facts, right? And so, but then people go, they want and they want and they want and they want. So to be able to get to see, like I said earlier, a little behind the curtains, it's like, good God, like, how are we getting the money? And it always goes back to taxes. And it's like, you don't want to have to tax somebody harder because I live here too. It's fucking hard, Matt.
Yeah.
It's costly to live here in this beautiful place. We get to look up and see the mountains, but then you talk to your friends that live in Oklahoma, and that's Oklahoma, right? But it's like, they're like, oh, it's so cheap to live here. Like, well, I don't know if I want to go to Oklahoma, but it's expensive. So it's hard to have that conversation with the people of the public and even friends to say, man, the only way we're going to do this is increase taxes a little bit or do this or do that. And it's,
I worry. I mean, as you see, it's not been on the ballot. It has quite a few years ago. It was on the ballot for Road and Bridge. I am very, I am concerned for those trying to survive here in La Plata County. I do urge though the taxpayers to look at where are your tax dollars going.
Sure.
You can go on our county website and see our budget and see where those funds go. But just on the Road and Bridge side, an average home pays $23.75 a year for a road and bridge.
Yeah.
Calculate that. That's not a lot. Not enough,
Sure.
especially from if you're looking at 1986 funding. But take a look at your taxes. Where is your money going? People are paying library districts, fire districts. There's a lot of other things, school districts, a lot of funds that are helping a lot of great things that we need, schools, fire protection. But it really take a look at where it's going. And $23.75 is what's puts towards our road and bridge, and that's not enough.
That's crazy. I didn't think it would be that low. But I mean, then again, going back to the conversation a second ago, yeah, our mill levies, it's low. I think it's the second lowest in the state. And I could be misspeaking or out of terms right there, but I honestly think it's either second or
Last
third.
I heard, fourth.
Fourth lowest in the
Yep.
state, right? Which is still, I mean, that's crazy for every county in our state. Yeah, it's pretty wild. I don't know. It's hard to know what the answer is on that, And then there's also a couple of special taxing districts that are getting heavily taxed as it sits right now. And, just like case in point, Forest Lakes versus in town Bayfield, or Forest Lakes versus just outside, but not in the city limits of Bayfield. You want to look at your mill? It's real simple. If you don't know what it is, just get onto the GIS and click Eagle Form, right? We're good. 10% higher. And it's like, whew, so it's like, everybody that's in those bit of special taxing districts, that's going to go up a little bit. And it's like where Forest Lakes used to be affordable. It's like, oh, are we affordable anymore? Or, I don't even want to mention Edgemont. Edgemont's beyond affordability, So
I just saw just a couple days ago, it was like $1.2 million for an apartment on Main Street.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
yeah, what are we doing here? Yeah, it's crazy. So that's a hard. I don't really envy anyone that has to deal with the nuances that go into how are we going to get the funds. And we're coming into budget season pretty quick, and it is brutal. It literally turns sometimes nasty between the public and the people that are in the positions that unfortunately have to make that decision. And it's like, God, you're constantly weighing and then you have to remove that hat of I live here too, but what's for the betterment of the community? And it's a very hard balance. You've been in public service, far longer than I'm going to be. I'll tell you that. And I said it publicly, so it comes out next week, whatever. Ashley asked me, she's like, are you running again? I was like, no, not happening. First off, I didn't run for this one. I'm here for a term and I will do the very best of my ability, but it's just, it was just something that it's not that I'm not passionate about it. It's very, you know me. Yeah. I'm highly sporadic and possibly even crazy. I like to move really quick and I like to think crazy. I like to go. And at the state, federal, local, town level, any municipality, it's not that game. It is slow and sometimes arduous. And it's like, it's a meeting to have a meeting to have another meeting to go to public and come back here. And I'm like, God, we're talking about the same thing again. Why can't we just write the name and just move? We all know that it needs to happen. And that kills me. So anyways, she asked me publicly and I said, no, I'm not running again, but it's all good.
Well, there's a reason behind that slowness, sadly.
Sure.
And for a good reason though, too. To make sure that there is an inside corruption.
Sure.
And
Well,
to be
yeah,
able
no,
to,
yeah.
hey, you want a job? I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
Let me get you connected to the county and we'll get you a job like that. No RFP needed.
Sure.
We'll just I'll hook you up.
Yeah.
No, that's really,
No,
that's
it's there
unfortunate.
for absolutely for a reason. And it has a process I do appreciate the process of allowing the public to truly grab the data out there, digest it, come in on a public forum and speak their opinion about it and have dialogue back and forth sometimes with the mayor or with the commissioner or whatever. I do appreciate the ability to have that. And without that slowness, it would never happen. The unfortunate thing that I've seen is that it will be tiny little things in the world, in the life, and however that cause a gigantic uproar in the public community. And I'm going, why? Like that we talked about 2 minutes ago, that has a chance to better all of our lives. This little thing right here is irrelevant. We're going to walk out of here and somebody's getting mad because it was a pissing match that you lost publicly to a board. And that's where I don't understand that. That's where it's like, gosh, I wish I could somehow like flip the light switch and I don't know. It's just crazy to me. Like, so kudos to you for sitting in public office for far longer than I have.
It still bothers me. You know, I went into being elected, you know, trying to solve everyone's problems, and we just can't do that. And, you know, it was a wild ride when I was in town of Bayfield, and we entertained the idea of, and we brought to the ballot to allow sale of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And that was very controversial. And, you know, the voters spoke, and it is what it is. And, but that was, you know, our board at that time looking into additional funding. How can we bring more dollars to our town to benefit? But here now at the county, it's, you know, for like road and bridge on additional funding, I look at it this way, kind of example of town of Bayfield proposed and brought to the ballot a 1% or 1 cent sales tax to be able to be allocated for roads.
Mm-hmm.
It lost 2 times. The third time it won because it was citizen led and the people spoke. It wasn't your elected saying, hey, look, you should pay more money in order to benefit our roads. Mm-hmm. I would do the same thing as well for the county, and that is let's let the people speak. You want to make some change? I'm here to back up. If it's something that will help benefit the residents of La Plata County, then lead the charge.
Sure.
Just be loud and make change.
I do agree with that. I've seen that have a lot of weight behind it. You know, just obviously just at town hall, but you know, when you've got 80 people in that room because they're passionate about something, I mean, it doesn't necessarily sway your opinion, but you can't not appreciate it. You sit back and you're going, holy shit. Like, okay, this is important. I need to get everything out of my mind and give undivided, absolute attention to what they're, and actually ask them, like, why is this important to you? And understand it, even if you disagree with it wholeheartedly, like at your core, you have to respect that because there's clearly more people than can fit in that room that probably agree with that. So, I mean, that's a really great way to look at it. I mean, you know, if the voice of the people can come towards something that is passionate, you owe them that to kind of at least hear them out.
I agreed. I'm a human being. I have no superpowers. I'm one that I try to do my best to look at that picture on all different angles. And so I do value those that come in during our board meetings to speak during public comment, but it doesn't sway what I decide, but I need to hear from them. Mm-hmm. And so we take in emails, we receive emails, give us a call, be able to just reach out, send a letter, because your voice helps with our decision making. It might not be a decision that you like, but we at least weigh on that issue on all sides to be able to hear. I don't know everything. I may make my wife think that I know everything, but it's one where I'm still learning every day.
Sure. Yeah. Man. Kudos. Hats off to you.
Well, hey, thank you for your service. But come on, you got to enjoy it.
No, I mean, there's parts of it I absolutely do enjoy. I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy it by any means. That's not the reason. There's a lot of other things in my personal life, and that's exactly what I've said publicly that I didn't talk about those things, but I was like, I will get through this term, and unfortunately, I'm not running again because there's just some things that I need to do, and so. But I really do. I mean, elections are coming up. We'll see what next year brings. There's 5 open positions on the board. That's huge. That's massive. Like, I mean, maybe we'll see. I mean,
that's majority.
Yeah.
It could really change the tide,
It could change the entire
whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it really could, and that's I've said it so many times on here. It is really important. I think it showed itself being far more important than most people ever really thought it was during COVID. How much local elections matter sometimes, and often more maybe than even the federal kind of level, because it's a direct impact to us. And so, I mean, I implore everybody to get out, especially at a local level, like read the ballot, read the initiatives, see what's going on, get a bit of data before, like don't just go to vote that day and be like, well, what does this person believe? Like, well, it's kind of irrelevant, like let's see what's behind the curtains a little bit. So yeah, it could be interesting.
And please don't use social platforms to base your decisions on anything that comes forward on the ballot. Do your research, educate yourself, because a lot of times that's online and it can be very misleading.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you're good through 25.
So I will be up for re-election November 2024. So next year we'll be campaigning.
Gotcha.
I'm not announcing right now, but I've stated before, I really love my job and I really want to continue working for the Plata County residents.
What else you got on the docket?
So a couple of things I don't know if you want to talk about is our county health department. We're working on that.
Yeah. So we talked about, Brett, before we got on air, I don't really know how to quite phrase this, but so San Juan Basin Public Health.
Yes.
And what you said, I didn't get any more knowledge because I want to hear it firsthand. But so what's going on with that? What's happening?
So we had working with our Plata County Commissioners, we decided to both agree on dissolving of San Juan Basin Public Health. There was, it was a amicable divorce with our Plata County. It is a dual district, so two counties creating a health district department. And so there was just differentiating views on certain things that were happening in both of our counties. And so we decided to move forward on dissolving. So that process has been almost a year now on dissolution of San Juan Basin Public Health. San Juan Basin Public Health is standing until December 31st, 2023 of this year. 1/1 of 2024. There will be a La Plata County Health Department.
Okay.
And Archuleta County will be doing the same thing. And what's nice about that is it's only representing La Plata County. It's just the voices of La Plata County and hearing from our residents. Right now, currently we just a couple months ago stood up a new Board of Health, La Plata County Board of Health, and getting them educated and working through what programs are being offered, are currently offered with San Juan Basin Public Health, as well as what are the next steps for next year when the county public health department is moving forward. What services should we have to offer, mandated, and what additional services we could maybe entertain later on in the future. So we now have a Board of Health that's going through those, meeting quite a bit, quite often, and we're working on getting a interim director that will come in as a third party to help be part of the process. We're finding a really hard time of a good candidate pool for a director for La Plata County for the health department. So we just interviewed today a potential applicant, and I just heard this afternoon that we'll be moving forward with that individual to be the interim during that time. She only wants to be able to represent that county health department for a year. So, which is good. It buys us some time before we find a permanent, full-time director. But it's going to be some good changes. We'll be able to focus on those mandated services, and I see it also too as other opportunities to be able to have third parties to be able to deliver services to as well. Sewer testing, just plumbers, more opportunities. La Plata County can't and doesn't have to solve every problem that we have, but we can focus on the core values in La Plata County to be able to water testing, sewer testing, clean air. There's WIC and childhood mothers that are needing assistance. Really focus on what do we want, and what's great is that the people get to create that vision.
Gotcha. Do you know anything? So I'm constantly dealing with San Juan Basin Public Health with regards to septic systems in the county, right? So as of 2019, they enacted the policy of doing what's called a transfer of title, basically giving somebody a clean bill of health that their wastewater system or is functional, right? And so if there's any repairs, they have to be made before somebody can legally sell that house. There's a couple of loopholes and some workarounds, but for the most part, it's got to have a clean, a functional, up to code standards, wastewater system. So do you know if that process, because that's kind of like its own little subcategory within San Juan Basin Health, which is sewer, wastewater, or OWTS. And so do you know if that's going to kind of transition into the county's purview, if you will? Or
so there's state mandates that we'll have to follow through CDPHE.
Okay.
So there will be requirements, but the question would be more of how can we work on the customer service or the ease of making it streamlined, easier for those applicants to be able to file.
Okay.
That's something that we could change.
Okay.
But if it's these are the rules, we have to follow those.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of strange. Like you can kind of get lost in the red tape of what the mandates were. And I just know this, like, hey, this is hardline and sand 2019, boom, we're doing this. And so I just wondered is now that going to go through a third party, kind of like a green analytics type thing where they would manage it, and then that kind of gets funneled back to sort of oversight at the county level? Or it's pretty interesting to see.
Be the voice of that. There will be meetings,
Sure.
And I just said, what's nice is that this will be part of the county board of health.
Okay.
The Plata County Commissioners are the budget and policy, and then the board of health will be able to work on any of those concerns or items of interest.
Okay. Yeah. No. Absolutely. I mean,
this is the bebeginning. Like we get to develop this.
But that's soon, though. I mean, we're a few months out.
Oh yeah.
So that's a relatively quick thing. And the other thing too is that, oddly enough, it seems really weird that you have a lot of kind of last minute contractual obligations and sales, typically in real estate, because it could be for taxation reasons. Somebody's dumping a 1031, or they got the approval, hey, buy that second house or whatever. Nonetheless, a lot of properties will go into contract and they end up closing January. So it's like, from a realtor perspective, it's like, well, I have to deal with the county level at all the time. So if San Juan Basin Health goes away and we close this project by X, it's, I definitely will be involved because I want to see, okay, is there a carryover? Is there kind of this grace period, or is it like cut off, like everything's got to be approved, or then it transfers to this new process? So
I'll definitely look into that,
Yeah.
but I think that we would be able to accept what's happened previous to the future.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I mean, just things that you don't think about. You're like, I do real estate. What is?
No, now you're making my wheels in my head turn.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, so I think that'll be good. There's a lot of gray area sometime with San Juan Basin Health, because it seems like they're this own entity that kind of does dictate and govern. So I think bringing it into the county level, with the deferment of sending to a third party subject matter expert, right? It's not always a bad thing. There's a lot of companies, there's a lot of cities out there that do that. So I'm really intrigued to see that kind of transformation and how that looks. It could expedite things gigantically.
I hope that's definitely one of my goals. Transparency. You'll be able to. We have, you want a quarter request. You want that information. In 3 days, we have to give you that information. Be able to. You just know exactly what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
That local control will be beneficial, I believe, for the Plata County residents.
It's interesting. You've said it 3 times tonight, but I think that transparency is so huge, especially at the municipality level. And I forget, it was a few board meetings ago, but after that, we had a private session and we were talking, and we had kind of learned something, because the board unfortunately had to vote a way that was like against everybody's heartstrings. It was like, God, this poor person, like, I want to help you, but the thing of it is if we do it, we're breaking all of our rules that we've already set in place and they're supposed to be followed. And we all voted, to keep these. And years ago, these were set in stone. I'm not saying that they won't ever change, but right now, unfortunately, they are. And it was one thing that came out of that conversation in the private session was transparency. And it was such a big deal. It was like, I don't think anybody of their right mind would ever question taxation if there was 100% transparency. If you knew exactly where your dollars were going, that's all. You'd be at the gas station filling up, and you start inevitably, if there's an election coming up, oh, he's going to tax us less, or whatever the case, or she's going to tax us. It doesn't matter. It's like, I don't think anybody would ever care if they knew definitively that their dollars are going to X, and I just don't understand sometimes why, it may not be at like a local level or state level or something, but why is it's always just kind of a gray, vague, mushy area. Like, where's our dollars going? Like, where the hell are they going? And it's like, I think if it was, just spell it out. Like, this was brought in, and I understand it is. And if you talk to a certain person, whoever is, they'll say, oh, well, it's budgeted. Everybody has access to the budget. I understand that. But road and sewer, okay, what does that mean? Or whatever the subcategory. The one that kills me the most, and I get questions in the public sometimes, is like, what is the general fund? I'm like, okay, all right, let's spend 30. We're going to break this out. But the thing of it is to the layman who doesn't look at a profit and loss or doesn't look at a budget statement from a municipal level, they don't understand what general fund is. They don't understand what the difference between parks and rec is, and so I'm like, why can't we just say taxable revenue came in and it's like a table of contents, like here's where it went and this is exactly what was spent, and then now we have this overage that's going to roll into next year's budget. I think that people would be on board with the conversation of, we're raising your mill levy. Okay, where's it going to go? Well, we have a deficit here and we actually need to backfill it. And we've been pulling from the general fund to subsidize this. And now, you know what? We don't have any money to do what we want to do that we said we were going to do as a town or a county. And it's like, why can't we just be transparent? 100% transparent. Why not? Why is that just your opinion from a kind of national, state, local, town level, why do we not just be transparent about where our money's being spent?
Right. So, we have around 400 employees for La Plata County. And for our budget, we have the 100-foot level of when we review our budget. I'm not there saying, okay, where did this $20 go?
Sure.
And so that's tough. I think sometimes I wish schools or we could hold like a government 101 class on why can't we pull you have all this money in the general fund. Why can't we throw all that or some of that into road and bridge funding or the sheriff's department? And you just can't. You're not allowed to do that through government statutes. Mm-hmm. And so that's unfortunate. But, I wish, we give a certain amount of budget for each department to be able to use what they need to survive, to run. And so, yeah, how could we – and we've talked about that too as well as commissioners, and I would hope that even a larger level at the state of how can we find easier ways to read. When you read that budget, people's eyes start glazing over like –
Sure.
But I would invite anyone. We have our budget discussions. We record them. Mm-hmm. You can access us on those. And so we have our finance director and we have our county manager. And what they do is they go through, not line by line, but each department on where the funding is going, what projects are carrying over. Because sometimes we'll have the funding and it's budgeted for this one project, but the project doesn't happen because we can't find anyone to do the project, mm-hmm. and so it carries over. And so that can complicate those numbers and wondering why. Well, yeah, it's accounted for 2 years ago or a year ago.
Sure.
But how? So it's a great question. How can we be more transparent? And people will say, well, you hold your meetings during the middle of the day. I feel that I completely agree with them on that. And so it's one where, but we record them.
Sure.
We're able to provide you on that information. So during our budget time, which is actually coming up really soon, which is crazy to think for 2024, but we do go through each item in each department, and we do have our department heads coming in and explaining why they need X amount of dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're daunting.
Yeah.
But they are informative, especially for, I don't know, getting back to my question, I don't know that they give the transparency that I wish we could do from a municipal level, but they are good to kind of give you an understanding. Like I would, it's public knowledge what our budget looks like just for the town of Bayfield. I'm not going to say it, but if you're listening to this and you're curious, I would say just go find it because it's public knowledge. You would be blown away how much money we have to spend annually to run Bayfield.
Yeah.
Not even to like grow, not to like have some amenities, not to like fix up the sidewalks. That's grant funded, right? And we put a little bit into that. Not all the stuff that we would love to have, but just to stay as we are right now. That's a shit ton of money, Matt.
Oh, yeah.
And it's out there. It's public knowledge. And I'm not going to give it to anybody. I want you guys to go find it because when I first saw it, because I was the same person pointing on the streets. Why can't we do this? Why don't we have it? And then when I see it, I'm like, holy cow. Well, we just operate. We spend a lot of money, and so it's eye-opening as a member of the public to see how much money it takes to maintain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And everything is getting more expensive. So, yeah, you put in $1 million or something. Well, yeah, to maintain that now, that cost keeps increasing.
Sure.
And, yeah, you're right. Staffing, paying for their wages, health insurance, it gets really, really expensive.
Yeah, one that kills me is like your computer services, whatever category it's bracketed at. You're like, well, what? And you're like, well, we have 136 computers. They're all interconnected. We have to have access. And I'm like, okay, it makes sense now. And I'm thinking, I'll pay that for my house, right? I'll pay this for it's like, okay, you know what? That actually does make sense. Right. So that one always gets me.
It's like Plata County is like $146 million. I remember Bayfield's budget.
Yeah.
And then looking at Durango's budget, and then all of a sudden I hit the county. I'm like, holy smokes! All right, this is a lot of money we're working with.
Yeah. But the thing of it is like you think that you look at the top, and then all of a sudden you just start chipping away, just like any business owner looks at. It's like, what's our? We're not looking at a net return, but we're looking at, okay, are we able to stay within what we budgeted last year going forward? And you look at it, and it's like, oh my God, we got road and sewer, we've got our water sewer, we've got road maintenance, we've got the street budget, and it's like, man, everything costs money, and it just chips away at that revenue coming in, and you're like, we don't have a ton extra, so you got to be creative. But I would challenge anybody to just look at the numbers, and it actually is pretty damn eye opening. And because you are, as a citizen, especially if you're not involved in it or you've never seen it, you really do kind of just point the finger and say, why can't this happen? Why doesn't that happen? I still do it. And I sit on the board. I know the numbers. And I find myself bitching all the time. Like, God, why can't we just do this? We'll pull it from something else. Well, we can't. Like, reality of it is it's not there to pull from. And, that's,
why do you have so much money in this fund? Well, we have to have emergency pay, to be able to survive.
Yeah.
If shit hits the fan, we need to be able to still operate for several, I believe it's a minimum of 3 months.
Yeah.
And so it's unfortunate. I wish we could. You know what? Yeah. That's a great idea. Here's the money for it.
Sure. And like you said too, a lot of it is state mandated. You have to keep certain amounts in general fund. You have to do that so that way that you do have reserves. And you would love to just yank. There's $2 million right there. Yank it. Right? No, you can't do that. Right. But it does make you feel good when you came back in and you finished the year and you were on budget. You're like, actually, boom. Okay, we did. We just got our audit this last week, and it's all published now. But it was like, okay, all right, cool. Town of Bayfield did good. But then it's just like sometimes I find myself like and I said this last week, it's like put the cart a little bit in front of the horse. It's like we've got all this potential growth, and it's potential growth. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. But the members of the community, myself included, you kind of get that like momentum behind you. Like, we're going to grow, we're going to have all this, we're going to do this. And it's like, you almost start to think 15 years down the road of like, well, we need this grand scale of park. We need this like this, and Mill Street needs to be resurfaced, and, it needs to just look beautiful, like an awesome, amazing mountain town. And it is beautiful, but in its own right. But, there's a lot of people that I've talked to in the public that would love to completely reface all the buildings. It's like, okay, there's grants for that. There's incentives for some of the owners, but it doesn't mean they have to do it. Those are private facilities, And so, I lost my train of thought, Matt. Sorry. I was talking numbers, got going crazy.
See, it's confusing.
Yeah. So, I forgot where I was at. Sorry, guys. If you're riding with me, shoot me a message. Let me know where the hell I screwed that up at. So, I apologize. I did do a cold plunge before this, but I think it made me more sleepy.
Right.
So,
Yeah, the other exciting thing too as well that we do not have in La Plata County and in our region is a weather radar station. Finally, we are having one. We're going through the process to be able to have a brand spanking new weather radar station at the airport.
Oh, wow.
What does that mean?
Nice.
Whenever you go to the weather apps, you're like, oh, it's supposed to rain. It doesn't rain. Oh, it's supposed to snow. It doesn't snow. Oh, wow, it's snowing and it says it's sunny out. Forecasting, flooding, rainfall, lightning strikes, it's an opportunity too as well. And so we are currently working through the process. We approved a vendor that they're going to start working on construction here very soon.
Nice.
And hoping to have this installed and lit up by the end of this year.
Speaking of the airport, what's going on with the expansion? It's like hot topic,
Really cool. We are in our phase 1A, so there's 3 phases going on. 1A right now is creating another terminal, so more seating area. We'll have a vendor to be able to have food or whatever that vendor wants to provide. Hopefully food, because it's another option for you when you're sitting there waiting for your flight. But the first phase construction is happening right now. They broke ground here. I just saw a post here not too long ago. So they're digging up the foundation there and building that one section. And that will be a new terminal as well as a larger seating area. And then that's this year. And then next year there'll be another phase 1B that will be able to expand it even further. So another terminal. So what we're doing is the end of this on the third phase will be more ticket booths, more areas for staff that work at the airports, as well as the airport attendants that work for United or Frontier or American Airlines, whoever it is, will have amenities and facilities behind those doors to be able to do their jobs properly, which will be more of an attraction to those airlines to maybe then put in another option, whatever it is.
Sure.
Southwest, I keep hearing from people. And so what's great about it is Tony Vicari, Tony is a great director. He's doing what he can with the funds that he has. And he's found great ways of getting federal dollars coming in for our small airport to be able to expand this. The first phase will include a baby changing mother facility, be able a lactation station is what they say is on that. So as well, so I'll be able to have families to be able to take care of their kids when they're waiting for their next flight. But expansion is underway. It's going to be able to. The end goal is to let's find option. Competition's good.
Sure.
Let's help drive those prices down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to happen tomorrow. But this is the future. This is the direction we're moving to expand those opportunities.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to see. I just had a client in that flew in from LA the other day. We're driving, and they weren't concerned with the pricing, but it was that conversation is always interesting with people because they're like, it's a small airport. I'm like, yeah, but we have great direct flights, and if we can expand the terminals, if we can expand the airport, and then we get another provider, whether it be Southwest or whomever, in there to have that competition, maybe it can bring our prices down. But I mean, to be able to fly from here to Dallas, from here to Phoenix, from here to Denver to, it's a huge convenience for so many people that, are wanting to be, because we are the closest, ski resort town to Texas, to Arizona, to Mexico, to, and so there's a huge advance to that. So I'm happy to see, because I remember that airport when I was a kid, and I was like, freaking joke. I was like, what is this? I still love it because it's like, even though they require you to get there, I think now an hour, just like every other airport in the world, I'm like, it's going to take us 10 minutes to check my bags and get through gate check. Why am I here an hour? And they're just like, well, we have to fall in line. We've got to do what's right.
Yeah, and then it would be able to expand security, be able to onboard people as well. But I'm excited. It's a good direction, and let's have that competition. Let's lower some prices. But there are some good prices. You should go onto the airport's website. Mm-hmm. You can get on there and follow. Where do you want to go? Sure. And you can pick, and it will give you daily, weekly, monthly rates of when those prices go up or down.
Oh yeah, as well. For sure. I mean, I always like to fly from Durango. It's such a convenience if it makes sense financially. It's like, you could drive to Albuquerque, sure. I mean, you're 3 hours there. When you get home, like we did that going to Hawaii because it was substantially cheaper. But it was like when we got home, we had 36 hours of layovers coming back, and I was like 3 Red Bulls deep, just zombie-eyed, And it's like, you don't want to do that. So it's like, if I can fly from Durango, I'm flying from Durango every time. And it's that first flight out of here is 45 minutes. I think the longest one's like an hour and 30 minutes, and you're like up and you're already going back down. It's like, oh, this
I'm
is
getting
great.
old.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
I used to drive to Albuquerque all the time.
Yeah.
I can't do that crap anymore. It's like, went on vacation, came back, and it was from Albuquerque, and I went through a rainstorm, a snowstorm. It was just, I keep my eyes looking for good deals from Durango. There are some.
Oh yeah.
But that's for vacation. There's business opportunities too as well.
Sure.
Let's get some more businesses in La Plata County and be able to create more jobs too.
They've
as well,
got
so
a
that
pretty
would
good
help.
private out of there too. I forget the name of it, but a client of mine called me the other day asking. I sent him some info on it, and they had like raving reviews. Just like a great private airline, right there at the airport. So I mean, if that gets you warm and fuzzy, I mean, it's there. It's an option. So,
And anyone listening, you can go onto the airport website. You can see the renderings of those expansions, and it's going to look really cool. It's going to have solar panels up top for some of the for energy, but also too, it kind of looks like mountains. It's like little peaks and valleys in there, so it's kind of mimics the Plata Mountains right there.
Yeah, we just need someone to buy the BP building, the old BP building, and build it into like a nice hotel for your layovers, right? Or I don't know if anybody's ever laid over in Durango.
No,
but
there isn't.
Not a layover.
Unless there was an emergency, I believe.
Yeah, or storm. So an hour labor.
I know. I love that BP building would be great for a business.
Yeah, I've had a couple guys call me looking at it, just trying to renovate, and it's a possibility, but I guess it's like astronomically more expensive to renovate a building of that nature, like on a big office building, into a hotel. Because they don't have the same fire code like restrictions, and then also like all the plumbing's a little different than it is to just basically scrape and build new. And I was like, what? That seems crazy to me,
The cost of materials. I mean,
but I mean, like, God, you got all your utilities in, you've got your the structure. I want to say that it's got to be, 18, 20,000 square feet. It's not a small office, but it could be way larger than that too. Right. It could be 80,000. I could be just totally talking shit.
It's a huge building.
Yeah.
I can't recall the number.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for coming on, man. As always, if anybody wants to reach out to you directly, especially since this is like hyper local, you are our commissioner or one of the commissioners for La Plata County. I want to give you a second to just say, how can people contact you? What are you doing? Are you still doing your thing at Pine River, every couple of days or, once a week or whatever it is? So just, I want to give you the second to just let people know how they can reach you, what ways they can come physically see you. And if they have any issues, how they can bring them to your attention.
Thank you for that. And thank you for the invite, and really enjoy talking with you and talking with the public that's listening in. And I love my job, and it's exciting. So really, you can get a hold of me anyway, really. My social platforms list my website, also my office number, my email address is on the social platforms. You can have people contact me through Messenger and through Instagram. And so any of those items that you're following me on, you can still contact me there. You can also visit our county website. If you just go into any search platform, I won't name drop any search ones, but you can just type in La Plata County Government, and you'll be able to click on that link for La Plata County, and there is a tab for the county commissioners. You can click on that, and you'll be able to get a hold of us that way too as well. You can then there's also a contact page as well, to where you can reach all three of us at one time to be able to reach out to your county commissioners. I also hold open office hours at the Pine River Library. It typically is on the first Thursday of every month. And then on the second Thursday of every month, I tend to go to Ignacio, depending on if I have an important meeting that just I have to cancel the one. But first Thursday or second Thursday of each month, I will be between Bayfield or Ignacio Library.
Oh, awesome. Sweet. And so you are going to be running 2024?
I'm very interested. I don't want to announce yet. Hey,
we almost got it.
Maybe, yes. I'm looking forward to, hopefully, if the voters will allow me to continue working after in 2025.
Sounds good, brother. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on the show, man. Thank you. Open invitation anytime. I want to keep people aware of what's happening, even though some of the people that listen to this are right here in Bayfield, but we all live in the same county, right? So I think it's important what you guys are doing. And thanks, man.
Thank you.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.